Good morning and welcome to Purpose Driven Finances, where our focus is helping you use your finances to achieve the purpose and plan for your life. And now here's the host of Purpose Driven Finances, Allan Molina with Serwus Capital Management.
Hey, good morning. This is Allan Molina, your host, Purpose Driven Finances, President, Serwus Capital Management, helping you achieve the purpose and plan for your life. Give me a call at 434-316-0246. I'm excited for this autumn weather, also to help you get where you want to go. Sitting here with my favorite co-host, Rich Roth. How you doing, my friend?
Morning, Allan. How are you?
Doing good. Moving a little slow, but living life and living large, or not really large, but you know.
I don't know. Tell me.
Yeah, I don't. You know, I'm a tall guy, not a large guy. You know. So, Rich, what I thought we would do today is it's going to be What's Your Number, talking about retirement planning.
Okay.
And I know it's going to be kind of hard to figure out what's your number. So I threw in a little caveat of life insurance, you know, spend 30, 45 seconds on it unless we go down a rabbit trail, which I'm good at.
Yes, you are.
And then on top of that, what I thought we would do is take the first segment, always talking about portfolio management, what's happening in the economy, things such as that. And, you know, we'll go down the road. Have you heard about the government shutdown?
Just once or twice.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah, just once or twice. And, you know, I'm really relaxed today, Rich. So I'm going to ask, whose fault do you think it is?
Well, I imagine you could get two very different answers depending on who you ask.
Right.
But, you know, with my limited knowledge of what's going on in the world politically, when you hear about a clean, continuing resolution
Right.
and things that always work, just, hey, look, let's just keep things going and then we can talk. And
people say no.
Someone doesn't want to talk. You know,
Right.
they want to. They want their cake and eat it too.
Exactly.
After they lost the election,
Right.
which is kind of like you don't control the House, you don't control the Senate, you don't control the executive branch,
Right.
you don't control anything. You don't get a say.
Exactly.
You know, be happy with the negotiation after you keep the government open.
Exactly.
And, you know, and it seems like everybody or most of America is on board with that. Because when you see the numbers in terms of who's being blamed and, you know, it's the Democrats that are being blamed for this, and probably rightfully so.
Exactly. You know, because they're saying their biggest thing is they want the Obamacare mandates to continue. Not mandates, but supplements.
Subsidies.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
You know, last week I re-listened to the week before, and I was like, Alan, what the heck? I couldn't remember that number. So not the number, but the word. Thank you for bailing me out. But what's interesting that's coming up is with the government shutdown is the SNAP benefits.
Translation, food stamps, for those of us who remember that.
Exactly.
Back in the day.
I'm getting personal. You ever been on food stamps?
Nope.
I did. You know, when we lost my grandpa to a tragic event, but we ended up on food stamps. And I tell you, one thing I enjoyed was I would buy from people that cheese. You ever had that cheese, for the government cheese?
The government cheese.
It was so good, man. It would come in a 5-pound block. It was so good. You know, maybe it's because I didn't have any Doritos, but it was so good. And so the biggest thing that's happening right now is people are so concerned about SNAP benefits to people. And they keep on saying, you know, the poor people out in the country aren't going to have any ability to eat. People are going to die and starve to death.
Or steal.
Right, or steal. Exactly.
Right?
Right.
It's, look, if you're not going to give me my benefits, I'm going to go take what I need.
Right, and what do they steal? I saw a video of a woman she stole, and she was like pulling everything out of her Coach handbag. And it was like...
It was all the brand name stuff.
And high dollar food.
High dollar brand name, not the generic, right? Which, I mean, shouldn't you be buying generic if you're on...
Right.
You know, should you be spending the extra money to get the name brand
Right.
stuff the Gulden's mustard rather
Right.
than the Kroger mustard
Exactly.
or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
and then it's, not the necessities either. It's beer or, Cheetos.
Lobsters.
Right.
I saw a thing where lobsters are approved.
That's crazy.
Come on, man. You know,
Crazy.
I mean, what the heck? That's. So what I'm hoping with all this is the government will say, you know what? You are exactly right. What we need to do is have all the SNAP benefits, but be for the basic necessities.
Mm-hmm.
And then people will say, well, I have gluten allergies. I need gluten-free bread. Well, that doesn't apply to lobster.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, so there's a big concern about it. And what's amazing to me,
We could have a little special section of the grocery store with all the SNAP approved
Mhm.
products,
right? But you know why
or a little sticker, SNAP
Right.
approved.
Well, they already have them.
Oh, they do.
They do. But the problem is there's so many items in the grocery store now that are high dollar that it's amazing.
Mm.
And like you'll see a convenience store, SNAP approved. And I'm like, come on.
Dude,
man.
like soda, right?
Right.
I mean, no.
No.
I mean, if you can't afford food, you shouldn't be buying soda with government money,
Exactly.
with taxpayer
Right.
dollars.
Exactly.
Get water, get milk.
Exactly. And some ramen noodles.
Like how we did it.
Exactly.
When we were young and poor.
We were okay. We were okay with that.
I had ramen noodles a lot in
Mhm.
college.
Yep.
Hamburger helper.
Right.
Yeah.
Or one of my favorites is rice-a-roni, the San Francisco treat.
I love rice and
Oh, so do I.
still do.
Oh, so do I.
You
yeah.
know, grill up some chicken or even, some chicken nuggets.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's the only San Francisco treat I want is rice-a-roni.
Oh, boy.
So you can laugh about that, folks.
I would even throw some frozen vegetables in there.
Oh,
like
yeah.
peas or, carrots or whatever. And
Mhm.
we get a little vegetable.
And if we have some SNAP, we'll get some lobster.
Right.
Yeah.
We can only afford lobster if the taxpayers are paying for it.
Exactly. So what I'm really hoping is now, folks, don't get offended. I know there's some people out there. I've been in their shoes where you actually, my grandfather was murdered, and back then in the 70s, they didn't have all the planning that goes on now. He worked on the railroad. That's why you heard the railroad commercial. That being said, my family was devastated when that happened because he was the lone
Breadwinner. Yeah.
breadwinner.
Mm-hmm.
Life happens. And my mom, she was a single mom taking care of us. We lived in a single wide trailer that I've actually taken my kids to, Rich. I took them there to the trailer park, same trailers from the 1970s.
Wow.
They got freaked out. We were going on a family vacation. I was like, let's go by the trailer park where I lived. They got nervous. I'm like, hey, folks, this is real life.
Yeah.
And for the folks who need it, but folks who don't absolutely need it, or they buy lobster on a regular basis. One thing I'm hoping for is that the U.S. government will actually fix the SNAP program. Now, there's a lot of disinformation out there. Now, if you would like, I would appreciate it. Oh, Rich, we did a survey last week. Anybody contact you?
Not me.
Oh, I'm saying WLNI.
Not as far as I know.
No one contacted me about their advisor. Maybe somebody didn't ask, or they actually got the help, which I doubt.
Why don't you remind folks what the survey was for?
Yeah, the survey was, will your current financial advisor help you set up a self-directed IRA to buy precious metals? My guess is you're going to get crickets, or we can do paper gold for you. But I did some research, and SNAP accounts, that sounds weird, SNAP accounts, it's about $8 billion a month in grocery spending.
Wow.
And one thing that's happened is it has dramatically increased over the past 4 or 5 years. Guess why that was? COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and then Biden. Everybody gets a
Bidenomics?
right. And so, the biggest concern is if you hear Democrat-led news that people are going to starve and die. I think that's a little, come on now.
Now, I do believe they're going to steal.
They're going to steal.
I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they come right out and say it.
They did. There's posts about it. And so, also there's the fight over what should be purchased. Now, folks, if you want to correct me, I would be happy for you to correct me. But 89.4% of SNAP goes to U.S. born. Only 10.6 goes to foreign born. I've seen things that were a whole lot skewed differently, but those things. So the government shutdown and SNAP benefits. Meta, point number 2, Meta came out with earnings this week, or guidance, and ad revenue. And so they got beat like a rented mule. The stock did. And is it a depression or recession? No, it's just their ad revenue is not that great. I mean, realistically, do you go on Facebook ever?
Not really, no.
I go on there occasionally, but it's full of groups and people selling stuff. How many ads do you really have? So that's the pressure on Thursday and Friday. Also, the Supreme Court is hearing some cases about tariffs if what Trump is doing is legal. And if you saw Rand Paul, he had the Senate basically say that Trump isn't allowed to do tariffs against Canada because he calls them taxation without representation, which I think he's personally, I think Rand Paul's wrong. Because if a country tariffs us, how can we combat that if you don't give the president authority? Because we know Congress gets nothing done. When is the last time they passed actually a real budget? It's been...
and obviously taxation without representation brings us back to the Tea Party and the colonies and all that. But we were still part of England at that point.
Right.
So we weren't being represented by the government that was by our government that was taxing us.
Right.
Canada is not, the Canadians are not Americans.
Right.
So how does that?
Well, Rand Paul says that what ends up happening is the average citizen ends up paying all the tariffs, which if you look at all the data, it has not happened because they expected the inflation rate to spike.
But the problem there is not our government doing that to them. It's what their government's doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we're ready to cut a deal. Let's cut a deal. And
exactly.
They don't want to do it.
Right.
So.
Right. And
how's that our problem?
Exactly. And Rand Paul is complaining.
Come on, Rand.
But it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the tariffs before the Supreme Court. Then finally, the Federal Reserve cut this week, 25 basis points.
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, they cut. It wasn't very dramatic. What's interesting is they've cut twice so far in this cutting cycle.
Quarter each?
Yep. And the 10-year has basically been within 2 basis points or 4 basis.
Hasn't moved much.
Yeah, it hasn't moved much. And so basically that's what's happening. And the market sold off on Thursday. I'm taping before Friday's close. I'm expecting Friday to sell off a little bit. The QPM has said go to cash rather than go short. And so I think there's going to be a little bit of a pullback, but I think eventually the market's just going to go back to
new highs.
And it's probably next week. That's what I expect. And so, folks, give me a call at 434-316-0246 or go to my website, servuscm.com. And I look forward to hearing from you this week. Stick around for a minute of commercials.
And then?
Estate planning.
What's my number?
What's my number?
Words of wisdom from the woodsman. Life rule number 9. Look for the grift. Our sin nature inherently drives each of us to self-worship and self-preservation. Quoting Proverbs 26:24, the evil-minded will disguise themselves with their lips, but in their hearts they harbor deceit. I'm Tommy the Woodsman. Selflessness, integrity, and authenticity are my priorities. If you want a tree service provider who is going to give you an honest assessment and not try to pull one over on you, then submit a request for an estimate at IHaveASawForThat.com.
Hi, everyone. Brian Kilmeade here. Coming up on the next edition of the Brian Kilmeade Show, we'll have the biggest newsmakers, news breakers, and take a deep dive into news you care about. Whether it's breaking news, entertainment, politics, or sports, even pop culture, I'll bring you the latest developments with expert analysis from the big names you know and love. Plus, you never know who may stop by. That's all coming up on the next edition of the Brian Kilmeade Show.
Weekday mornings from 9 to noon on WLNI. And now, back to Purpose-Driven Finances. Here's Allan Molina with Serwus Capital Management.
Hey, good morning again. Allan Molina, host of Purpose-Driven Finances, president of Serwus Capital Management. Hope you're having a great morning, enjoying your coffee. Guess what I'm doing today? I am putting together, finally, a dinette at my house. I built it. It's a wraparound bench and a river table. We actually cut the wood. Well, it's a your wife would know. It's all in the magazines. It's basically a giant piece of oak that had a crack down the center of it, and I put epoxy that looks like a blue river.
Oh, okay.
And my son welded the legs or stand for it, and then we got a large Brazilian cowhide, and we're going to upholster the cushions with that.
Cool.
That's what I'm doing on Saturday today.
Man, must be nice to be handy.
Oh, you know, YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube. Or it's either handy or I'm cheap. You know.
Hey, if you can do that type of work yourself, more power to you, because I can't.
There's a lot of things I can't do, so I'm having someone come in to fix some things that need to be fixed at the house. But Rich, we're talking about what's my number, estate planning, and this is something that one thing I have found is most couples, the wife is like, "Honey, we need to do an estate plan. Honey, we need to do it," and we guys are like, "We're never going to die." And then what happens?
We die.
We don't die.
Oh, we don't?
Until we do die, and we don't talk about it anymore. And but realistically, folks, what happens with estate planning is it provides several things: clarity, control, and confidence. The biggest thing that I like is the control part, because it determines who gets your stuff when you die. And none of us like to talk about that. None of us like to do that. But it's critical that we need to do an estate plan, because realistically, it's either going to be intentional or accidental. Hopefully no one listening to my voice is planning their death, but realistically, it's going to be intentional or accidental that your estate plan kicks in. And it's so much easier if it's intentional. And there's so many things that you can do that you can control. I know you listen to the radio a lot, Rich.
When you say it's going to be intentional or accidental that it kicks in, and it's so much easier if it's intentional, you talking about the estate plan or the death?
The estate plan.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting that.
Like if your death's intentional, it's so much easier. Like, what?
No, this is not Canada, bro.
That's suicide or murder right there. Either one.
We don't want that.
Okay.
No, it's if you actually intentionally create your estate plan, and then when you have the occasional blessing of dying,
a blessing, yes.
Well, if you're going to heaven, it's a blessing, but we don't want it. It's not a blessing for your loved ones. But that being said, and it's hard to talk about death, because it's always awkward. It's always awkward, and that's why I'm trying to be funny, but it's not working. That being said, it's much easier if you plan it. And so, but the first thing that most people overlook is beneficiary designations. This is in your IRA, 401k, your annuities, your life insurance, sometimes long-term care, sometimes annuities. These things pass outside of the will, and so it's better to do that. It'd really stink, Rich, if you're married to somebody, kids move out of the house, and you guys decide to get divorced, and you've been married 20, 25 years, and then you get divorced, and then
I mean, this sounds like my life right now.
no, it doesn't.
Kids have now moved out.
Right.
We've been married 25 years next week. I mean, this is me.
Nah, bro.
This
No,
is me.
No.
So what's next? She's walking out, or is she kicking me out?
Neither.
Okay,
Neither happening. You know, I can see the smile on her face when she sees you. You know, I've gone to dinner with you guys. It's been so fun. We haven't done it in a while. I think it's us that you guys don't want to do that anymore. So, you know,
Right.
there's a tear in my water. But that being said, what ends up happening is, imagine if you got divorced, and then you got remarried, and you that second marriage was 20 years, and you never changed the beneficiaries on your IRA, 401k, or life insurance. And
You want to talk about awkward.
that's awkward.
But, I mean, the great part about that, though, is you're dead.
Right.
So you don't have to deal with the
Right.
awkwardness.
Exactly.
Good luck to you. Fight it out.
Right.
I'll be God. Don't
Yep.
really care.
That exactly. That would be a tough thing to happen. So you need to make sure that's taken care of. The other issue that you need to look at beneficiary designations is with blended families. You need to really contemplate and work it out of having kids that are from one spouse or the other that aren't yours, but they're half yours. You just got to work all that out.
Mm.
And the best way to do that is, I think, a revocable living trust. A lot of people, you know, that revocable living trust is really the number one tool that's used. A lot of people are like a simple will. Do they call it a holographic will? Which I
don't
think
know.
is kind of weird. That's based on one you write out.
Okay.
But the problem is, if you write it out, each page has to be numbered, from what I understand. Each page has to be initialed and then witnessed and preferably notarized. But so it's better to go through an attorney, because it makes sure that everything is actually doable in your state. And I'm talking to everybody in Virginia, unless you're listening to the podcast through the various means. Then you need to look at your locality. But a revocable living trust package, it includes the will, or the pour-over will, the trust itself, medical directive, sometimes the HIPAA, and power of attorneys. And what that does is the benefits are avoiding probate.
Yeah, and I just want to bring this point up and get you to clarify it a little bit. But I think a lot of people are under the impressions that trusts are for people with tons of money.
Right.
And, you know, it's, oh, he's a trust fund baby, right?
Mhm.
But there are different kinds, and this is the kind that isn't specifically for people with tons of money
Right.
who are looking to avoid taxes and all kinds
Right.
of stuff. This is for regular folks who maybe don't want their kids to get money before they reach a certain age, right? I mean, this is
Yeah.
for everyday regular people
Right.
too.
It is for regular people, because it does really two things. Now, Rich, everybody in Lynchburg knows you're loaded. And everybody,
That's a good one.
Everybody knows I'm loaded as well. It's just an amazing thing. You know, it's just brilliant. But right now, I have some debt. You have some debt. I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
If I said, Rich, let's jointly publish our debt and our assets in the local paper tomorrow, or are we going to, not Sunday, Monday? Let's do it Monday. Would you be up to that? I wouldn't be.
I wouldn't be, but now maybe more so than several years ago when more people actually read the paper.
Right, right, exactly. Well, the reason I say, Allan, what is that? What are you really trying to say? Is if you go through the probate process, everything that you distribute to your heirs is public record.
Mm.
And I don't want, now when it goes from husband to wife, that's a little different. But when it goes to your heirs, the final thing, everything's published in a normal probated will. I don't want that. And why would you want that in your death? Or why would you want, and we make the joke, well, we're dead, we don't care. But do you really want hearse chasers out there? There's lawyers who are ambulance chasers.
Mm-hmm.
There's also financial advisors who are hearse chasers, but there's also salespeople who are hearse chasers. And so you need to protect yourself. And I don't want my neighbors to know. I don't want people to know. But the other thing that it does is it avoids probate in the sense that literally, if you have a revocable living trust, you can distribute assets immediately. Whereas if you have to probate it, where I learned all this from was a good friend of mine. His name is Tom. He was taking me through the process, and I learned all about these things. And he was like, Allan, realistically, if you go through probate, legally you shouldn't even give away a toilet bowl scrubber because everything has to be accounted for. And so if you have a revocable living trust, it's much easier to distribute assets and things such as that. One of the interesting things is my mom, she passed away several years ago, lung cancer. It was a rough thing. And she bought her house in, I think, 05, 06.
Mm-hmm.
No, not 05, 2006, 7, 8, 9. She bought it in 2006 when all the houses were elevated. And so she died, shortly thereafter, a few years later. Her house was underwater. We couldn't sell it for what the loan value was. I was the trustee of the revocable living trust.
Mm-hmm.
I gave the I took the keys and the death certificate and took it to the bank and said, here you go. It's yours now.
Huh.
We've cleaned it out. It's yours. That being said, I just got a phone call, guys. I almost answered it. But what it does is it enables you to have flexibility and to distribute. So that's controlling the time. And also the nice thing is integrating charitable or sometimes tax strategies. Realistically, RLTs don't help you with taxes, but they can do things in order to, if you put into place and working with an attorney. Now, we're not going to get into special needs trust. We're not going to get into, hey, I have 5 kids and my youngest is a meth addict and he lives on the streets of Vegas and I've tried to rescue him and my estate is $10 million. I don't want to leave him $2 million. We're not going to get into that. You need to talk to an attorney. And, I can sit down and guide you in the beginning of the process, but I'll always introduce you to an attorney who can help you achieve the purpose and plan of your life through an estate plan. Because I don't want to be said, Allan, you're operating law without a license. I don't want that.
No.
But I want to help guide you through the process. And so now there's 4 key roles, of a trust. A grantor, that's the person who gives the assets to the trust. A trustee, the person who manages the trust, and the beneficiary. Now, what's interesting about a revocable living trust is, let's say there was, the Allan and Pamelina trust. What ends up happening is we're the grantor, we're the trustee, and the beneficiary. Once we're both dead, then what happens is the grantor role is gone, but what ends up happening is the successor trustee takes over, and he distributes or she distributes to the beneficiaries. Now, Rich, have you ever had to be the trustee or personal representative to an estate?
Have not.
You're blessed. My sister was a little perturbed that I was the trustee,
Mm-hmm.
and she was power of attorney. I was like, sister, it's a thankless job.
Right.
It's not any fun. So, folks,
Is that sort of like being the executor to the will?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not any fun. It's a pain in the tail. So folks, last thing is look at insurance. That's where we've already talked about that. Refer back to my podcast a few weeks ago. This is Allan Molina, your host, Purpose Driven Finances. Give me a call, 434-316-0246. Hope you have a great week and a blessed week.
Returns for illustrative purpose. This is not a suggestion to buy, sell, or use a platform. Only will a suggestion occur after a meeting to determine goals, risk tolerance, and time horizons. Investments involve risks and no guarantee of future results.